So great to be here and to see a lot of familiar faces, and a lot of you will know some of the stories that I'm going to tell tonight, but I'll tell them anyways for those that don't. And I think, as was stated, the point of tonight is to sort of, it's celebratory, you know, and I'm going to talk about this festival of Ridvan that we're in right now. And I've chosen 7 songs, and what I'll do is talk a bit about the song and how it was written and why it was written, and the themes that are relevant in that song, and the story that goes along with it, and then play it, and then move on. So it'll sort of be nuggets of history mixed in with some themes and some music. So I hope that's good. I hope you enjoy it. And usually I'm, as you know, part of a band that's much larger. There's usually 6 of us here and multiple vocalists and different instruments and everything. So I'm doing a very, very dumbed down version of a lot of our music. But if you like what you hear, you can always go and listen to the full productions on streaming services, Spotify, iTunes, whatever you have. So I'm going to start with a song that I probably shouldn't start with, but because I've never played it alone before. It's a pretty big song, but I figured it's an important one to start the night off because of the subject matter. I always like to start these conversations talking about 2 concepts in the Baha'i faith that are really, really critical. One is the independent investigation of truth. And what does that mean? Simply, that means that we have all been endowed with the capacity to search for truth, and that it is a prerogative to investigate reality and to search. And everyone does that in their way, right? There's different ways to do that. Many people will do that through meditation, through consultation, and so on. But the idea is that humanity, we've evolved to a place where there's no longer a need to have intermediaries between us and our Creator. There's no longer a need to have people interpret things for us and tell us what things are, because knowledge is accessible now pretty much to everybody, right? And so it's really our responsibility to investigate and to search and to do that. And so that's one of the themes. And the other theme in here is that we are essentially spiritual beings having a human experience. Our reality is really spiritual. So this, as Rainn Wilson calls it, if you've listened to his talks, these meat suits that we have really are just these temporary vessels through which we can have an experience and develop spiritual qualities, which is really one of the primary goals of this existence. And as I go through and talk, I'm going to just read a few quotations from Baha'u'llah, who is the founder of the Baha'i faith, because his words carry a certain potency. So one of the quotations to sort of underscore the importance of this concept that we're spiritual beings is this. He says, man is in reality a spiritual being, and only when he lives in the spirit is he truly happy. Man is in reality a spiritual being, and only when he lives in the spirit is he truly happy. And one more. He says, wert thou to attain to but a dewdrop of the crystal waters of divine knowledge, thou wouldst readily realize that true life is not the life of the flesh, but the life of the spirit. So this is, these are just some thoughts to start this off. And I wanted to read those because this first song is called Wayfarer. And the idea for the song came from one of the books of Baha'u'llah called The 7 Valleys, which is one of his most mystical works. And it's short, but really dense and just packed with amazing, profound concepts. It's the type of thing you would read, you would meditate on, you would talk to people about. So I'm going to just read a very small introduction to the 7 Valleys. In this mystical work, Baha'u'llah describes the stages of the soul's journey to union with its creator in terms of 7 valleys. The valley of search, of love, of knowledge, of unity, of contentment, of wonderment, and true poverty and absolute nothingness. So this is the journey of the soul back to its creator, which again is a theme that you'll find in many of the religions, and in the Baha'i faith, that is at the core of this whole journey is towards our creator. The stages that mark the wayfarer's journey from the abode of dust to the heavenly homeland are said to be 7. Some have called these 7 valleys and others 7 cities. And they say that until the wayfarer, a wayfarer is like a seeker, somebody who's searching. Until the wayfarer taketh leave of self and traverseth these stages, he shall never reach to the ocean of nearness and union, nor drink of the peerless wine. So it's a journey of gradually detaching ourselves from ourselves and becoming one with something much greater. So I will attempt to play this. Deep in the mist, in the depths of the valley below, the wayfarer stirs. He desperately longs to be whole. A voice from within is calling him to arise from the dust. Will you soar in the realms above? The pathway onshore. Will he travel this journey alone? Driven by truth, the truth he longs to behold. The voice from within is calling him to arise from the dust. Will you soar in the realms above? Heavenly morn, will the rays of the dawn return once more? Reawake, won't you find your way back home? A knower is he who is dry in the sea. From the fire will emerge cool, empty of self. He will walk on the waves, in each face the beloved, traversing the plains. Hidden secrets revealed, truth at hand, leaving loneliness behind. Drawn to the edge, drawn to the edge. The ocean is drawing him near. The journey so long, will his wandering ever be clear? A voice from within is calling him to arise from the dust. Will you soar in the realms above? Heavenly morn, will the rays of the dawn return once more? Reawake, won't you find your way back home? A knower is he who is dry in will emerge cool, empty of self. He will walk on the waves in each face, the beloved traversing the plains, hidden secrets revealed, truth at hand, leaving loneliness behind. Thank you. There's a really big ending on that song with lots of beautiful sort of African voices and things. It's worth listening to that one on Spotify if you get a chance. So, Resvon. What is Resvon? So, Baha'u'llah, and I've spoken about this before, so many of you will know this story, but he was, advancing, well, he was following in the footsteps of the Bab, and the Bab had come to prepare the way for Baha'u'llah, and he brought a new message to humanity. And we are talking about mid-1800s, 1844, 1850, in that period. And this was in Iran, and this was in a fanatical time. And the idea of somebody claiming to be a messenger of God was preposterous, because there were certain signs that people were expecting, sort of the same when Jesus came or when Muhammad came. There were certain signs, and if those signs didn't sort of align with the predominant view of the clergy, then it couldn't be true, because they were the wise ones. And so when the Bab came, he said, I'm a messenger of God for today, and I'm here to prepare the way for another one. He called him He Whom God Shall Make Manifest. And there were thousands of people that followed the Bab. And as a consequence, the authorities and the religious leaders became afraid, because this was a movement, and it was getting out of their control and out of their hands, and they were losing power. And so there are many stories that we have access to that just talk about the bloodshed and the savagery that took place. And it's just horrible, disgusting the depths to which humanity can go. But I'm not going to talk about that period. I'm going to talk a bit more about after that. When after the Bab had been martyred, he had been killed, Baha'u'llah sort of became this figure that people were drawn to. And he was born into a very noble family, and so he couldn't be, they couldn't kill him. They would have loved to have killed him, because he had many followers as well. But because he was born in a noble family, and his family name had a lot of respect in the government, they couldn't kill him. So what they did instead is they sent him for 40 years of his life through a series of exiles and imprisonments. And they just tried to get him further and further away from Iran, where all of these people were becoming followers of the Bab. So they sent Baha'u'llah and his family from Tehran to Baghdad. And he spent 10 years in Baghdad. And after he got there, there was so much confusion about this, the Bab, he's passed away, who's the leader now? What's happening? There was a lot of disunity, and there was a lot of confusion. And so Baha'u'llah decided that he was going to pull himself away from this situation, because there was so much disunity, and the last thing he wanted to do was to be a source of disunity. And he decided to retreat into the mountains of Sulaymaniyeh, which is in Iraq. And he actually went to this one place called Sargalu, and he spent 2 years there. And it was, you can go there now. Well, I don't know if I can go. One can go there, and it's actually, you can see where it was that he stayed, and he lived for 2 years. And he lived like a darvish, you know, a very impoverished person, living on rice and milk, and that's pretty much it for about 2 years. And it's at that time that he received many revelations and many writings, but he pulled away from the community. And as you know, in other religious stories, there's always, it seems to be that moment where the messenger of God has to sort of retreat and go through something, and then they can come back. And so this was his time. So this is a song about that, and it's called Sojourn. I'm just going to read this one thing. These are Baha'u'llah's words. I have been most of the days of my life, even as a slave, sitting under a sword hanging on a thread, knowing not whether it would fall soon or late upon him. And yet, notwithstanding all this, we render thanks unto God. No one saw him leave that night, with little food or drink, and wishing no return, to leave behind this empty world, a journey to the quiet of the realms of light. Day after day his soul communed, without the noise, the clamor of betraying hearts, traveling to Sargaloo, the humble life only dervish in the eyes of the learned. Low weariness, lay me low, and hunger consume me, and the bare rock be my bed, my fellows, the beasts of the field. I will not complain. Would pass without his grace to take away the tension and remove the doubt. Then came the bidding to return, to face a life suffering only messengers are made to bear. Though weariness lay me low, and hunger consume me, and the bare rock be my bed, my fellows, the beasts of the field. I will not complain. I will not. Thank you, thank you. So I was describing Resvon, and then I got sidetracked, and I'm going to do one more before that. Sorry, because it's kind of chronological. So we're going to get to Resvon, but we're going to back up. So we just finished 2 years of sojourn in the mountains. Now we're back in Akka, and it's about, in Baghdad. It's about 1865, but we're going to go back to 1852. In 1852, he was imprisoned in a prison called the Dark Pit. In Farsi, it's the Siai. And in that prison, this dank, disgusting, dark pit in the world, in a very corrupt part of the world, is where Baha'u'llah received this message, this revelation, that he was a messenger of God. And we know that the light shines brightest in the darkest areas. And so that's the thinking, that this is why Baha'u'llah came here. And so he received his revelation, and it was at that moment that he was told that he would be a messenger of God for this day. And so if you can think of Muhammad receiving his message through, and it really, the message is really the Holy Spirit through the angel Gabriel. If you think of Christ receiving his message through the dove and Moses through the burning bush, well, Baha'u'llah's symbol for the Holy Spirit was, he calls the Maid of Heaven, this woman. It's very interesting when you think of that, the chronology of the plant, the animal, an angel, and this Maid of Heaven. And so this is a song just called Revelation, and it is the words of Baha'u'llah about that moment when he had this mystical experience. During the days I lay in the prison of Tehran, though the galling weight of the chains and the stench-filled air allowed me little sleep, still in those infrequent moments of slumber I felt as though something flowed from the crown of my head over my breast. Even as a mighty torrent that precipitated itself upon the earth from the summit of a lofty mountain, every limb of my body would, as a result, be set aflame. And at such moments, my tongue recited what no man could bear to hear. During the days I lay in the prison of Tehran, though the galling weight of the chains and the stench-filled air allowed me little sleep, still in those infrequent moments of slumber I felt as though something flowed from the crown of my head over my breast. Even as a mighty torrent that precipitated itself upon the earth from the summit of a lofty mountain, every limb of my body would, as a result, be set aflame. And at such moments, my tongue recited what no man could bear to hear. Thank you, thank you. This is fun. Is everyone okay? Yeah, sure. All right. Let's get to Resvon. So, Fast forward back to 1868. So the problem is, Baha'u'llah, he still hasn't revealed publicly. He hasn't said, I am the promised one. I am a messenger of God. He hasn't communicated that publicly. There are some people that are suspicious. And so he's in Baghdad, and the same thing has happened. More and more people are turning to him. More and more people are following him. People are coming from all over to visit him. And we're not talking just the commoners. We're talking princes and governors and religious leaders, people from all over, religious leaders from different religions. They're coming from all over to see who is this person. What is it about this person? And so the same thing is happening, that they want to get rid of him because, again, they're losing control. And so the Sultan of Turkey, the Sultan basically writes an edict to send him to Constantinople and Adrianople, to send him to Turkey. Okay, so he has to leave, and there is massive amounts of weeping because Baha'u'llah is now leaving again, and he will walk on foot. And so someone offers him a place where he can say goodbye officially to his friends and his family. And so this place is called the Resvon Garden. Resvon is a word for paradise. And it's a beautiful garden, and it's on the Tigris River near the outskirts of Baghdad. And he goes there with some members of his family and some close friends, and for 12 days, he's there. And why this is so magical is because it's at that time, for Baha'is, that Baha'u'llah formally revealed to those around him that he was a messenger of God for this day. And there's so many writings around what happens when there's new revelation that comes to earth. I was reminded of Cat Stevens' song, Morning Has Broken. And, it's based on some verses from the Bible, but essentially the idea is that when revelation comes to humanity, there's a regenerative force that's released. And so part of this is like the divine springtime, that we feel that we believe that there was this new spirit injected into humanity, and that there was capacity injected into humanity. And so it's really meant to be a celebratory time. And so for 12 days he was there. Thousands of people came to visit him. He wrote tablets for everybody, and then he rode out on a red roan. We have all of these stories written down, and people followed him, and he rode and then walked to his next exile. So this is a song called Resvon, and it's about that moment in the garden. I wish I could sing it with Asher. Asher sang it with me the other night, but he's doing an exam right now. Nightingales sing a cry from the heart. They yearn for the roses, warbling in the dark. Journey to the garden, the king on the waves. The nightingales rejoice and sing out in praise. An exile with his sons, those sacred lives. 12 days they would stay to say their goodbyes. He walks out from his tent and strolls through the night. The Resvon of the earth, the roses piled high. The world is longing, heavens are calling, spirit is gathering force. Come with me, oh my Oh, my dearest friend, let me take you down to his garden, across the water of mystery, to the shores of divinity. Countless souls come to say goodbye. Hear him chanting under the night sky, the words that fall from his ancient tongue. Oh, a new springtime has come. Hundreds would come to bid farewell, to take comfort in his words, a tablet for everyone, and listen to him at night under moonlit skies, chanting the verses in the garden of paradise. The world is longing, the heavens are calling, the Spirit is gathering force. Lay me down to rest in the garden of peace, where time stood still. I am down on my knees. The ether flows, all creation made new. Behold the ancient of days. Lay me down to rest in the garden of peace, where time stood still. I am down on my knees. The ether flows, all creation made new. Behold the ancient of days. Thank you, thank you. And Manalise, looking good, buddy. Eyes on the road, eyes on the road. All right, guys, I got a couple more. We okay, Firuz, Ariana? Okay. Yeah, I wanted to play this song. You know, we always joke, our music is usually very intense, and we always say the sign of a good Smith and Dragoman show is that there's somebody crying in the audience. If we got people crying, then we feel good about what we've done. But at the same time, we are very fun and upbeat people, even though we don't write a lot of that music, because it is based on some pretty incredible and intense stories. But this is a song that Mike wrote that I really like, and I like the message behind it, and I think it's always relevant. And it's about the equality of women and men, and it's about a woman by the name of Tahereh, who is really just this beacon of light and hope in the early history of the Baha'i faith. She is an amazing story, and I won't get into it, except to say that she was incredibly intelligent, and she had this passion and this drive to educate herself and to search. She was searching, she was keen, and because of where she grew up in the world and because of the oppression towards women, she had to hide this. She had to hide her studying and her debating. And it said that she got so good that the learned men would come and seek her out, and she would be behind a veil, and they would be duking it out with their wits about passages in the Quran and stuff, and she would just destroy them with her wisdom. She was also apparently absolutely beautiful, and the Shah, I think it was the Shah of Iran, wanted to marry her, have her hand in marriage. So she was a very well-known person. And you can actually go online and you can see her poetry. She had a lot of beautiful poetry. So a powerful woman. In the end, she became a follower of the Bab. She had a dream about the Bab, and she never met him, although she did meet Baha'u'llah, and she became an ardent follower of the Bab. And then she was, her death, she was strangled to death by 2 guards. And she had foreseen her death. And I wrote a song called Solace of the Eyes, which talks about that. But this is more of a happy song, and it's called The Unveiling. And it was at a time when there was a conference with Baha'u'llah and many other people. It's called the Conference of Badasht. And they were all gathered, and Baha'u'llah was sort of seen as the head, and Tahiri was there, and she was really all about advancing women and advancing the status of women. And the Bab, when he came, had already started to talk about changing this notion of women and their role and their equality with men, and then Baha'u'llah really emphasized that and reiterated it. So at this conference, for us it's going to be hard to imagine, but Tahiri removed her veil, and a lot of people lost it. They could not believe that a woman would remove her veil. But she did it, and she did it fearlessly. And that was really the beginning, in the Baha'i history anyways, of this emancipation of women and us learning about the equality of women and men. And we have a long, long way to go, as we know, about what that looks like. But we're striving, and we have the writings of Baha'u'llah to help us. And here's one of them. And let it be known once more that until women and men recognize and realize equality, social and political progress here or anywhere will not be possible. Until women and men recognize and realize equality, social and political progress here or anywhere will not be possible. And one more, and this is from Abdul Baha, the son of Baha'u'llah. The world of humanity has 2 wings. One is woman and the other men. Not until both wings are equally developed can the bird fly. Should one wing remain weak, flight is impossible. And as we grapple more and more with the concept that we are one humanity and we have universal problems that we need to solve together, or else we're literally going to kill ourselves as a planet, we need to take this concept of the equality of women and men and recognize it in all of our different affairs and activities. What does that look like? What does that mean? And how is it expressed? So this is called The Unveiling. Put on your broidered robe of light and tear your veil away. Drape thyself in the silken vesture of immortality. Unveil your face and manifest the beauty of this day. The hour has come to tell the world and show us this new way. Divine mystery, the sweetness of your name, we honor you, O Tahiri. The earth began to stir the moment you appeared, your radiant face to show the path to womanhood. So raise the call for all to hear, surround us with your love. reflect a glimpse of his crimson light. Oh, blessed Tahir, the ornament of divine mystery, the sweetness of your name. We honor you, O Tahir. We honor you, O Tahir. Thanks, guys. All right, I'm gonna do one more. Let's check the time, 7:56, okay.
Out loud.
Thanks, brother. Okay, I'll do two. I'll do this one and then a lighter one at the end. I always like to acknowledge, whenever I can, that this faith is really built on a lot of blood, which is really sad to say. But that is the legacy of humanity, isn't it? When there's something new and different and challenging to the mainstream, we tend to respond in the worst ways. And so, as I mentioned before, there were tens of thousands of people that lost their lives in the mid-1800s and towards the end. And unfortunately, there's still ongoing persecution in different countries in the Middle East in particular. And so it's a sad thing. The Baha'is have an official seat in the United Nations. We have a desk in New York and Geneva. And so we are constantly rallying around the persecution of the Baha'is and bringing it to the attention of the world audience. And it's, there's pressure that's applied to Iran in particular about this. But we still have a long way to go for our brothers and sisters over there to be free. And so many Baha'is have their jobs taken away from them, or they're not allowed to go to university, unless you say I'm a Muslim, or recant. You don't have to say you're a Muslim, but you have to say I'm not a Baha'i. And so for Baha'is, that's not an option, So as a consequence, there's many Baha'is that are imprisoned. And I wrote this song thinking of them. And there's one in the bridge here. I'll read it for you because it's kind of, it might sound weird unless I explain it. There is a woman, so I wrote this in 2011. There was a woman a year earlier, or maybe that same year, whose voice was recorded, and she was chanting. She was in her cell in the prison, and it's called the Evin prison, and she was chanting. And somebody captured her vocal recording. And it was a prayer for forgiveness. And in that prayer, she was praying to forgive the captors, those people that were locking her up. And it just, every once in a while, there's something in your life that just floors you. And that was one of those things. So initially, I wanted to include her actual track somehow in the song, but I couldn't do it. But in the bridge, you'll hear me referencing that, just so you know what that is. So this is called Prisoners. I can hear voices singing, chanting behind the walls, locked away in their prison cells, and they've done nothing at all. Their courage makes us stronger. Their quiet resolve gives us wings. And all the suffering they endure will only the blessings bring. And we're here for you, standing in the serried line, Let our thoughts and prayers wash over you and comfort you in the cold night. The door is locked and the key is gone. Your loved ones cry out in pain. Where is the justice? Where is the law? Yet you patiently remain. Can you feel the millions of souls, your brothers and sisters in song? They cannot extinguish the light in our hearts. The fire of love's burning strong, and we're here for you, standing in serried lines. Let our thoughts and prayers wash over you and comfort you in the cold night. You can hear the sound of chanting, escape from her cell. A prayer for forgiveness, oh, she's wishing her captors well. The prisoners of terror, their freedom denied. How we long for your release, when you can take back your life. You can take them and shroud them in darkness. You can tear them away from their lives. But you will never break down the doors to their faithful hearts and minds. You can take them and shroud them in darkness. You can tear them away from their life. But you will never break down the doors to their faithful hearts and minds. Thank you.
Two more, please. Two more.
Hey, Farouz, there's a tip jar, eh? I was going to do one more anyway, so I'll do that. Thank you. Okay, yeah, last song. This is, there's sort of in the same vein of women. There's so many amazing stories about the women in the Baha'i faith and what they've done and how the message has spread and the sacrifices they made and their role in administrative positions and so on and so forth. And there's a few in particular that always stand out when you're thinking about the early history of the Baha'i faith. They're the ones mostly from Canada and the United States. There's one in particular, well, there's many in particular, but this song called Land and Sea was written with one of them in mind, and her name was May Bowles. May Bowles would be considered as the mother of the Baha'i faith in Canada. And she met she met Abdu'l-Baha in 1899. She went on, it was the first pilgrimage to the Holy Land, Akka. It was the first pilgrimage by Western believers. And she went, and there was a group of others from the United States that went. So she met Abdu'l-Baha on February 17, 1899, when she made pilgrimage to Palestine, which is now Akka in Israel. And she recorded this in her own words. So this is her first meeting with Abdu'l-Baha, for Western eyes, this strange oriental figure with long white robe and what's called an abba, a white hat, and a long beard and different language and everything. She's meeting him with her Western eyes. Of that first meeting, I can remember neither joy nor pain, nor anything that I can name. I had been carried suddenly to too great a height. My soul had come in contact with the divine spirit, and this force so pure, so holy, so mighty, had overwhelmed me. So this is called Land and Sea. I'll cross land and sea to follow thee. Take me on a journey of love. Sorry, I'm in the wrong key. It's going to go too high for me and it won't end well. Here we go. I'll cross land and sea to follow thee. Take me on a journey of love. Lead my steps aright by your light and your life. Fill me with the fire of love. How you came to me, even only in a dream, shining light on what I could not see. I will follow thee. In discomfort or ease, I'll cross land and sea. And I have heard your call and set out from my home. Restless and ablaze I will go. When my time has come and my service is done, let me circle round where you lay. How you came to me, even only in a dream, shining light on what I could not see. And I will follow thee in discomfort or in ease. I'll cross land and sea. Even only in a dream, shining light on what I could not see. And I will follow thee in discomfort or need. I'll cross land and sea.
I gotta go.
Thanks, guys.
We're at one more for Grace and Oliver. You know, Oliver had to come all the way. He was driving.
Okay. All right. How about Todd? Todd's all
And
the way from
Todd.
Oshawa.
We're going to have Todd on May the 7th here, by the way.
Yeah, you should definitely go to that. He'll correct a lot of things I said. Okay. Okay, I'll do it.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, well, I'll play this one. Okay, and I love playing this because it has this quotation, which is from the Hidden Words of Baha'u'llah, which, as many of you know, is another sort of, it's a small booklet of very, very profound little nuggets of wisdom. And if you've got a good head about your shoulders, you could even memorize all of it. So half of it was revealed in Arabic, and roughly half was revealed in Farsi. And these are the sorts of things you would read. They're like, you know, a couple sentences. You would read it and you would meditate because they're just profound. And so the one that I'm using in this song, it's the chorus. It says, if thou lovest me, and Baha'u'llah is speaking here with the voice of God. If thou lovest me, turn away from thyself. And if thou seekest my pleasure, regard not thine own, that thou mayest die in me, and I may eternally live in thee. So it's kind of going back to that original theme of Wayfarer and this journey. And you'll see this theme in so many of the writings. It's the journey away from the ego and self towards selflessness, towards service, towards humility, towards something greater, towards oneness with the Creator. So this is a song, it's really just a personal song about sort of letting go and kind of having that faith to kind of let go of this world and abide in more spiritual places. There are traces, a circle in the sand, heaven spoken through the wise one's hand on the shore of oneness. I leave myself behind and step aside. There are traces, a remedy divine, living waters. He unseals the choice wine, divine healer. His finger on the pulse of all mankind. And if thou lovest me, turn away from thyself. If thou seekest my pleasure, regard not thine own, that thou mayest die in me, and I may eternally live in thee. Eternally live in thee. Unravel secrets of unity and peace under the branches of the divine low tree. Gentle breezes whispering celestial designs. And I approach the circle, his warm embrace on the shore of oneness, by the sea of grace, through rings of fire. I hold on to your hand and step inside. If thou lovest me, turn away from thyself. If thou seekest my pleasure, regard not thine own, thou mayest die in me, and I may eternally live in thee. Eternally live in thee. Eternally live in thee. All right, that's probably a good place to end. Thanks, everyone. That was fun. I hope that was okay.